like mom and dad.
That's weird. Hi, everybody at home. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to get started. I hope you're enjoying the sunny weather outside. And thanks for tuning in. All right, guys.
Why do we have to do it this hour?
Why do what?
Why do we have to record this hour?
Because I didn't record earlier. So I got to record sometime. So everybody picked up 3 sheets of paper. Let me explain to you what those are first. Did everybody grab those 3 sheets up here? Okay. So when you guys come back to school, if you are at home tomorrow, I'm going to give you these 3 sheets. So the first thing is I put your December schedule on the board. I will keep that on the board for all of you at home. For those of you here today, it's good to actually record this. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm actually one of the last people to ever find anything out, but I am very concerned about what could happen, and I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I'm handing you some future stuff. The first thing you received was your learning unit. That's going to happen the day after Thanksgiving break. That's when we need that one. So November 30th to December 11th. It's got that mouse on the front. It's a pink packet. That's going to be our next unit. I like that unit. It's a unit to teach, and I hope we are definitely in school to learn that unit. After that, things aren't different because of COVID. I just want you to know personally, I have always given the semester test before holiday break. I have always done that. I do that for 3 reasons. 1, I think memory gets forgotten over time and interference happens, and so it's best to test you when it's fresh. 2, I believe a break is a break. So when you go off to college next year, you will come home Thanksgiving or Christmas or whenever you guys get your breaks, and they will be breaks for you. So I think you need no stress, at least in my class. So you're not going to have readings and trying to keep up on essay tests and things like that. And then 3, the other reason why I've always done it early is because it helps space out your other big finals that you might have during finals week here at Hempstead. When we have finals week at Hempstead, we will just be learning a normal chapter. We will not be doing an exam like this. So those are the 3 reasons why I always give your test ahead of time. So let's start with the December 14th, 15th date. Put that down on the top of the white sheet that you guys just picked up. Hello, stranger. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, this white sheet is going to explain your FRQ. So this is either going to be on the 14th or 15th, depending upon what day you guys are in school that day. You will note there are 3 essays on the front and there are 2 on the back. All these choices, one of these will be picked. When you come into class that day, you will pick out of a hat randomly, and whatever number the class picks will be the number your class actually does. You have the prompt and you have the words. So there should be no surprises at all. If you are somebody that prepares, you will have no problem with this, okay? So one of the things I just want to point out is that the very first paragraph, if you don't mind, if I could read to you something that's going to happen that's different. So first of all, free response will be chosen randomly. You must write your FRQ from memory. You are encouraged to prepare ahead of time. And now here's this next sentence that's a bit different that you're probably, well, it's going to be new for you. A portion of the FRQ grade will ask you to connect the bullet with its corresponding unit. So for each of the terms, you need to tell me what unit that was in. So let me explain. It's not as hard as it seems. Let's do the first one together. Have your pencil ready because we're actually just going to say the answers right now. So for each of the pairs below, use an example to show how the first term in each pair affects or is related to the second. What unit, you guys, did we learn serial position effect / recall? Oh, dear God. Yes, thank you. You should be going right now. This unit, we are in it. We learned it like 4 days ago. So you could say cognition or memory.
Okay.
Either unit. cognition or memory, and then I would score you a point for that. Functional fixedness problem solving is also this unit. We will get to that in a couple days. So none of you probably are aware of that one yet. How about operational definition? Where did we learn that word? Is everybody looking down because you don't want to look at me? Because I'm certain that you don't see anything down there that's going to spark any form of your memory. Operational definitions. Not social. Thank you for guessing, though. Methods. History and methods. You could just put methods down. Methods, where we learned about experiments and all the different pieces of experiments. So what about double blind, which is the next one? Say it. Yep, methods. Yep, that one's out of our methods unit too. Now, operant conditioning, that's in our next unit, which is going to be learning, this packet here. And reinforcement is going to be in the learning unit too. Myelin sheath, bio, everybody knows that one. Yep. Okay, so do you understand for that piece, you need to tell me what unit. You then need to define it and then apply it like normal. Okay?
Is it just with number one or is it with
All of them. Yep, because you don't know which one you're going to get. Questions about FRQ? Yep.
We get all these words we pick the first one, or we just get...
Oh no, you're going to get 7 words for any of these. All of these have 7 words. So we are upping your ante to how many words you have to do, as well as the variety of words coming from various chapters. On the back side, 7 as well. Well, I guess the last one is 6, so 6 to 7 words. Okay, so that's FRQ, and then what we'll do after we're done with the FRQ is we're going to spend a couple days in class reviewing our semester multiple choice test, and then we will take the exam, which is on December 21st or 22nd. It's the day before holiday break. I prepared this purple sheet for students a couple years ago because I knew they needed more of a roadmap to how to study for that multiple choice. I put the multiple choice date on top of this one so that you don't forget. It's either December 21st or 22nd for yourself. And so if you look at this fairly quickly, you can see I've got the unit. I have how many questions are going to be on that test from that unit, and then any of the important terms. So it just kind of, instead of saying, hey, you have to study 7 units or 6 units, here's what you need to know from that particular unit. And if you can see, the history piece, there's only 2 questions. So not a whole lot of time should be spent there. But when it comes to the research piece, there's 16 questions. And every one of those terms is something that you need to know. I'm hoping that also you're looking at these terms going, a lot of these look very familiar. On the very last page where it says consciousness, we are behind in AP Psych. I've been trying to keep that kind of on the down low to you because that's not something you need to worry about. But we are not going to get to consciousness before semester break. So therefore, there are only 2 questions on the test. If I don't remove them from the test, I'll just tell you those 2 answers. It's not going to make or break any of your scores. And you'll get 2 bonus points from me. You will not, therefore, need to know these terms during our semester exam. At the end of the year, we will have to know all them for sure, and we will get to them, but just not by that December 21st date. Anybody have any questions about anything I just went over? I didn't mean to cause, as I mentioned to Jennifer when she came in the room today, more stress, but this is kind of just like preparing you of the what ifs, so you know these dates and it's not hit from the side and you're like, oh my God, we didn't even know any of this. So now you are aware. You also have a homework assignment tonight, 285 to 297. So those of you at home, make sure you do your reading. In addition, I have graded the PEG word mnemonic and your favorite memory. if you noticed and you tried to insert or put on Canvas after it's been closed, sometimes people are like, I tried to put it in. I'm like, yes, because it's now past due. It'll be considered late. You have to, you guys can always turn in late homework. It will never, things happen in our lives. So I'd rather give you some credit than no credit at all, at least for trying and doing some stuff. So anyway, you will either have to submit hand copy or you just give it to me through email and I will score it that way. So make sure if you don't have that done. Today we're going to talk a little bit about your homework that was due today, and I haven't had a chance to score that yet. So if you haven't had a chance to actually look at, or get that 40 studies done, please do that. You're going to want to make sure you get that submitted. Okay. With all that being said, let's just chit chat a little bit about what we talked about yesterday, which is I kept it on the board in case you need to actually write anything down or you couldn't understand what I was talking about. So one of the big learning targets I wanted to talk about was how our brain stores memories, and that's learning target D, and the answer is long-term potentiation. That's the answer in a nutshell. What is long-term potentiation? That's our biochemical changes that happen in our brain due to those spines growing as we repeatedly send the same signals over and over and over through that synapse. The example I gave was neurotransmitter serotonin being sent over through the synapse. More it gets sent through this particular memory, the more our spines will actually multiply, enabling the postsynaptic neuron to actually have your receptor sites more readily available. The analogy I gave had to do with snowshoeing. For some of you that made no sense, and I know it. That's why I always try to apply, you guys apply something in your life that makes better sense. You know, for me, I go snowshoeing. That path is very difficult at the beginning, but eventually as I repeatedly go through that path, it becomes more efficient and easier for me to actually snowshoe. Just like if you consistently use that same memory over and over again, it's going to be easier for you. If you learn a math formula one time, just once, it would be hard for the average person to recall that math formula. But if you've learned and you remember that math formula and you use it like 20 times, that memory is going to be even more solidified and it's going to be easier for you to grab. Anybody have questions about LTP? Okay, then from there we went on to getting the information out of our long-term memory. These four I think are pretty easy to understand, but they are all on your test, so I didn't think it's important that we spend a second to talk about them. Recall versus recognition, multiple choice versus FRQ, retrieval cues. If you ever call me over and say, Ms. Horner, can you help me with this test question? I try to prime you with an example. That would be more like a clue. Context, we talked about deja vu and how sometimes you're like, oh, you feel like you've been in the same place, or sometimes in your location, you're able to bring out long-term memories just because when you went to state and you think about like going down there and swimming, when you're 30, when you go to that same pool, a memory of state, I'm sure, is going to come back to a lot of you. And by the way, congratulations on that. State dependency. What I did at the end of class was I divided them in half. Half of them went in the hallway. They saw goofy pictures, silly pictures, lighthearted pictures, and then in people in the class, I created more of a morgue-like state, and I shut the lights off. We played funeral music, and they saw death, destruction, dying pictures. What happened at the end then was we all reconvened. I said, write down a memory that you have. When they wrote their memory down, 98% of students that did this all day, actually, that were in the hallway, had a happy memory about their life, and the kids were in here had sad memories of their lives. Simply put, mood congruency. Happy moods enable you to remember happy thoughts or happy memories. Sad, same thing. If you're in a sad mood, you're going to tend to remember your sad memories. That's mood congruency. Anybody have any questions about any of that before we go on to today? This thing's freaking out over here. It's like driving a drunk driver driving a car. I can hear it. Can you hear it? Okay, so I'd like us to focus on learning target F then. Discuss the effects of interference and why do we forget? Gosh darn it. All those things that cause us to forget in life. So first thing I might need is 4 volunteers to go in the hallway, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. You 3 and you. Just stand in the, or just go over there. Shut the door if you don't mind. Give yourself a minute. I'm going to explain to everybody in here what we're going to do in class. All right, guys. So I'm sure you've played the game kind of like telephone, where you tell a story and then somebody else has to tell the story and you repeat it. And by the time it gets to the end, the story becomes so distorted and different. That's basically what we're going to do. If you could just pass those on, and then Anna, here's yours. I'm trying not to get this thing all screwed up, so I apologize I'm not walking to you. But this is the very long paragraph we're going to tell the very first person. It's detailed. You guys get to pick the first person that you want here, who then will tell as many details as they can to the next person, so on and so forth. Got it? Who would you like to pick as our first person? Any you guys decide, not me. Josh went out, Gracie went out, David went out, and Marcus went out. Jennifer, who would you like?
I don't know.
Come on, guys.
Jenna?
So the first person's going to hear the whole story. And then it starts to get distorted, because it gets passed down.
Can we read off of the sheet, or do we have to?
No, I will be reading it. You aren't going to do any of the reading. But who do you think we should pick for the very first person?
Like someone from after.
Yes.
Oh.
Who? David? Okay, so we'll pick David first. So he'll be our first guinea pig. And then he'll tell the story to our next person. Got it? Your job is just this. So this is the story if you're at home. I know you guys don't have a copy of it, but this is how long it is. You guys are going to do, well, you 3 ladies over here, Isabel to Sam and Jenna. I'd like you guys on this piece of paper, write down any notes where they actually omit. Like if they literally leave out some facts, write those notes down for us. We're not turning these in, just be very informal. I just want you to use it as a basis of discussion. Jennifer, you and Anna are gonna write down anything that they change completely. So like, look at the very first sentence. It says a blue Honda Accord. Last period, it became a blue Civic. So they literally changed the car, okay? So anything that they change, you guys write those notes down. Again, if it's not perfect, it's not a big deal. Just try to grab what you can, and we're going to use this as a basis of our discussion. You guys get it? Okay, so let's bring David on in, if you don't mind. Do you mind grabbing him, Jenna? Oh, no, just David. Yeah. And then shut the door. David, you can sit right here. David, we're going to tell you a little story. Great. So your job to remember as much detail as possible, and then you're going to tell the story on to the next person.
Oh, I got it.
Gotcha? You guys are just listening at this time because obviously he's not talking. Here's the story. A blue Honda Accord is traveling east on a 2-lane roadway when a nurse, walking home from work, absentmindedly steps into the street, forcing a car to veer sideways into an 18-wheel tractor trailer. The driver of the tractor trailer, Alice Robinson, that's what her name is, grabs a 12-inch crowbar and runs toward the driver of the car. The driver of the car is 17-year-old Chris Kantorowicz. Alice yells angrily about the reckless driving of young people. The nurse attempts to play peacemaker, steps between the 2 drivers, and is struck by the crowbar, falling to the ground. An onlooker rushes to a nearby payphone to call for help as the 2 drivers attempt to dash off. Just then, 3 police officers arrive and arrest the drivers. Got it?
No, not at all, but
You'll give it your best shot.
you betcha.
Okay, who's our next person, guys?
Let's get Marcus.
Marcus it is. Just Marcus, please. You were. Okay,
Oh,
so you just hold it. Marcus, come on up to the front of the room.
Marcus can sit here now.
No. You
Oh,
sit
I
there.
sit here.
Marcus,
Lucky you did.
David's going to tell you a story,
Tell me a
and
story.
you are going to listen to him. Remember as much detail as you can.
Do you like stories, Marcus?
I do like stories.
Well, good. This is a good story.
Oh,
You're
that's
gonna like
good.
it. Ready? All right. So there's a blue Honda Accord, right? It's traveling east on this road, and on this road there's a pedestrian that steps out into traffic at a bad time because that blue Honda Accord's coming. So the blue Honda Accord swerves into the other lane and hits an 18-wheeler semi truck, right? That semi truck's driver name was like Alice. She's angry, right? She gets out of the truck with a 12-inch crowbar and she's like yelling how reckless young drivers are. And then they're just going at it. So then this person who stepped into the traffic tries to get in the middle of them and break it up, but then she instantly just gets banged in the head with the crowbar. So she's just having a bad day. And yeah, so then another onlooker like rushes to a payphone to call the police and get help. And that's when 3 police officers get on the scene and arrest the 2 drivers before they can run off.
Good job,
What a
David.
story.
Thank you.
That's a
Thank
great
you.
one.
David, you can give him.
Oh boy, here
Oh,
you
no.
go.
Yeah, Grace
Thank you.
Or Josh. Gracie. All right. Grace. Grace, go to the front of the room with Marcus. Marcus is going to tell you a story,
Isn't this fun?
and you are going to listen to every detail. Okay, so careful not to push those buttons.
Just to me? Like,
Yeah. Yep, we've already heard it. All right, this is your microphone.
All right.
Grace, come up this side. Yeah, there you go.
So here's the story. There's a blue Honda Accord that's traveling east on some road. Now, out of nowhere on the road, a pedestrian kind of walks in at the wrong time because they're about to get hit by the Honda. So the blue Honda Accord swerves to avoid them and hits an 18-wheeler. So the driver of the 18-wheeler's name's like Alice. She's kind of mad, and so she steps out with a 12-inch crowbar to confront the driver, saying how young drivers are all so bad. They're so bad driving. So they're going at it, and then during this, the pedestrian walked in. They kind of they come in and try to stop it, but as they come in and stop, they get whacked in the head by that crowbar. And there's an onlooker in all this who sees all this trouble, goes to the payphone, calls the police. So the police come up and then they arrest the two drivers.
Thank you, Marcus.
And that's the story.
Oh my god, I'm not gonna be able to remember any of that.
There you go. Go on.
Is this still on? Yep. Okay, so your microphone's right there. All right, front of the room, Mr. Josh. Grace is going to tell you a story.
I can't wait for the story.
Other side.
Other side? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so there's this blue Honda Accord and it's driving on some road
Okay.
and then this person, oh my god, I don't think I remember any of it. Something about like a pedestrian walks in front of like,
So I got a blue Honda Accord.
okay, there's like a blue Honda Accord and then there's like this 18-wheeler like semi thing, I think. I think they
Okay.
get in like an accident and then
You think or you know?
they get in an accident and then they're fighting with like a crowbar and then
That escalated quickly.
there's like a pedestrian that walks into the store and calls the cops on them and then somehow he gets hit in the head with the crowbar and then there's an onlooker watching this whole scenario. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. You can get him the microphone. You can
Okay.
take a seat, Grace. Josh,
Okay.
Tell us what you can remember, please.
Okay, so there's a blue Honda Accord driving down a road, and then there's like people, like what Grace said, like people, and then there's an 18-wheeler semi, and then after that, a pedestrian was walking out front of the road, and they get hit or whatever, and then they escalated to going to a store, and then they're fighting with a crowbar, and someone gets hit over the head, and that's all I was told.
Nice job, Sally. I was really not the best person. Like,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I would have done the same thing. I don't have good memory.
It went from
Probably a good thing to go first.
All right, what I'm handing you three, you can hand those over, are the three actual stories that everybody is sitting with at their desk. Let's go through. What did they remember? What did they forget? Did a blue Honda Accord, was that recalled throughout the whole story? No one forgot that at all. Okay, nobody changed it. How about traveling east? Was that recalled? David? You said traveling east and then we lost it. How about Tulane?
We got that it was a roadway.
Okay. Nurse. Was a nurse brought up at all? No, not once. David never said nurse?
I didn't hear nurse the first time.
Okay.
And I was like, where'd this nurse come from?
Okay. So she's forcing, she walks into the street. Did we say anybody walked into the street?
Yes.
I think it was meant like reference, but not said.
You said pedestrian walked in the street?
The pedestrian started walking.
Okay. Causing the car to run into an 18-wheel tractor trailer. Did the 18-wheel tractor trailer get mentioned?
I heard semi. I heard
So you said semi.
I said 18-wheeler.
Okay, an 18-wheeler. And what did you say, Marcus?
I just said 18-wheeler.
Okay. And then what did Gracie say?
She said 18.
Semi? Okay. The driver's name of the trailer was Alice Robinson. Did anybody remember that? I think David said Alice. Yeah, Marcus say Alice? Marcus did too?
Yeah. Marcus was almost like spot on.
So we at the Grace. Okay. Did Alice grab the 12-inch crowbar?
Yes.
No. Okay. Yes, and then no. Just so you want to, in case you want to know, the one tidbit that every single class every year has always kept straight is there's been a crowbar in this story, except last period. Last period, the crowbar turned into a ruler. It was so funny. It was very funny. Okay. Did we remember that the driver of the car was a teenager?
No.
Did we remember his name at all? Okay. Did we say that Alice was yelling about recklessness of young people? I think you did, and then we lost it, okay? The nurse attempts to play peacemaker. Did we get any of that in there?
Absolutely not.
I think Dave mentioned it.
David did?
He mentions like something similar of like,
Somebody stepping in?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about payphone? Was that mentioned? David say payphone? Marcus said payphone. Gracie said payphone?
I said phone.
Yeah. And then it got weird.
Yeah, it's
We went to a store. I love it. All of a sudden, we went to a store, and who went to the store in Grace's story?
I don't remember.
She said a person, and then like I remember her telling me she went to a store and saw that.
Anna, what did she say about the store?
she said like a person went into the store using the phone.
To use the phone. Okay, well, at least we have that piece. And then what about police? Did David remember police? Marcus? Grace remember police?
No.
No police were mentioned. Poor Grace. She's getting picked on. All right, so when you guys take a look at this, how easy it is. That was a very complicated story, by the way. And let me just commend the two of you. Never do I ever hear the beginning of the story almost repeated, the most details as you gave him. And you were pretty spot on, as you said, David. So nice job, the both of you. Usually it gets altered pretty quickly right away, some major changes. Take a look at these 6 reasons for actual forgetting. The reason why the people that were sitting up here and on the spot trying to repeat, and by the way, thank you 4 of you for participating. There were some of these reasons as to why you actually were forgetting. I'd say probably blocking was a big one because things got in the way from you learning. You were trying to remember the old information. That would have been a really, really big one. Suggestibility as well. Misattribution, source amnesia. You remembered like who said it, or maybe you didn't remember who said it, but you remembered there was a truck, that type of thing. You couldn't remember who was driving the truck. So all of these reasons would be, not all of them applied, but many of them applied to our quick example that we just did. What I'd like you guys to do on that white sheet of paper, because everybody has one now, and don't laugh at me because everybody always does. On the back side, if you have a little bit of room, you don't need much, put down somewhere on that white sheet of paper something you have forgotten, but then you remembered later. Has nothing to do with this story. We're talking about your life. Maybe you forgot where you put something and then you recalled it later. Maybe you forgot to do your homework and then you remembered it later. Maybe you forgot to tell your mom and dad happy anniversary, but then you remembered later. So everybody write something down. Maybe you forgot where your keys were. Maybe you forgot you left your car running. I mean, there could be a million things, right? In a course of a day, I will be the first to admit, yeah, that probably could have happened. Now, turn to your groups. So you 5 share with each other, you 4 share with each other what it is that you forgot. Don't take too long, just quick. So you're sharing to the whole group, guys.
I forgot to turn off the headlights of my car, and I didn't realize until after my car died.
So if you are at home, think of something that you have forgotten, but then you later remembered. And it could be any of those examples. Just think of it in your head.
I forgot.
Good? Y'all shared real quick? Good? All right, now take a look at the board and put down a number 1 to 6, or you could put down 2 numbers if you feel like it's for 2 reasons, of why you think right now. Now, I know we haven't gone over these yet, and it's okay. We can change it. It's not a big deal. You're not turning these in. What's your gut say? What's your gut say as to why you forgot what you forgot? 1 through 6 are your choices. And then we're going to take some notes on these if you're a note taker. If you're not a note taker, then you're going to listen or take a picture, whatever you guys do. I do have a sheet of paper in your current handout for you to take these notes. If you are writing on here, if you do it on your own hand, please feel free. You don't have to write on here, but this is where we're actually going to write some things down. So these are for your own studying, and I'm going to move this here too, Josh, because I know this is in your way. So we're going to start right at the top with decay. One of the major reasons why people forget things is due to decay. Decay means time. After a certain amount of time, your long-term memory is going to forget things. If you need to move because you got to get around this box and camera, please do. Just adjust yourself. It's not going to bother me at all. So decay means time. And the person I would like you guys to remember that's associated with this is someone you should be familiar with at this point now. His name was mentioned the first day of this unit, Herman Ebbinghaus. Let's do a quick review because you need to know this a week from today. He will be on your test. Who can remember what Herman Ebbinghaus did? If you are at home, try to remember what Herman Ebbinghaus did. Right now, no one in 5th hour is raising their hand. I'm calling y'all out. What did Herman Ebbinghaus, okay, some of you eat this for breakfast. Cereal. What word am I looking for? The serial position effect. Yes, good job. What is the serial position effect? Stop writing. Let's make sure we know it because you need to know this a week from today. This is a good review. Superposition effect says you remember things at the
start, but not
at the beginning and the end. And if you remember at the beginning, what's that called? Primacy. If you remember at the end, it's called recency. Good. Okay, you're not going to forget that. We're bringing his name back up today. Hermann Ebbinghaus is also well known for what's called the forgetting curve. This is the drawing right here. You don't have to draw it exactly. You could use words if you want. Basically, what he studied was this. After a period of time, after decay, you're going to forget the majority of what you learned, but you're not going to bottom out. Very optimistic. So what he studied is subject after subject, didn't go all the way down to this line, didn't forget everything, but they forgot the majority. And also what he studied is what you can recall when it does level out, you'll probably remember for the rest of your life or for a very long time. The best example I can give you, and if you notice there's like a spot for examples so that hopefully you guys can put your own examples down if you have any, is when I was your age, I took my very last Spanish class. I took it because of a college requirement. I never took another Spanish class in my life. I'm 50 now. I had a huge drop, right? Lost almost everything I learned, but there are still some words that I've always been able to retain, always. Now, if you guys can think of where else in your life, I had a girl last period give me a really good example. She said she read a book about 3 years ago, and she could not remember why she hated the ending of the book. She remembered kind of the plot, but she's like, I know I hated this book. So due to time, she had lost the ending and couldn't recall that. And so she went back and, so can you guys think of anything in your life where you've lost it because too much time has gone by? It's hard to retrieve it, but you didn't lose all of it. Maybe you went on a vacation when you were little. I'm just throwing this one out of here on my hat. And you have not visited the place since you were really little, and then all of a sudden you went back 10 years later, and you're like, oh my God, I can remember some of these things. They're kind of coming back to you, but you forgot maybe some other things. That might be an example. So, percent retained time, it's going to drop. Anybody say your example that you guys wrote down on paper was due to time? Okay, number 2, very important one. You'll notice if you can see, as I was thinking, you guys can't see the yellow, can you back there? So I've starred here. I've these starred and these underlined in yellow. These the College Board loves, and they like to put them on the test because they know kids get these confused. So they always try to give you a hiccup. You're not going to get them confused though, because I'm going to hammer this in your head. So this is more for retrieval failure. Do you guys see where it says retrieval failure on there? So retrieval failure. Basically what we're talking about with retrieval failure is the inability to not access it. That's what I put in my handout. It's stored, it's in there, but you can't access it. It's blocked somehow. Does that make sense to you? So it's difficult for you to bring it back out. You're having a hard time because of the blocking. So 2 types of retrieval failure are proactive interference and retroactive interference. Proactive interference, neither one of these concepts are difficult to understand, just a lot of kids get them mixed up. Okay, so proactive interference is when you remember the old but you forget the new. So you have a strong, all your old information, you are struggling to remember the new because the old is getting in the way of the new. Can you guys give me a personal example where that might be applicable? Yes, Josh.
in math class, sometimes for going through a lot of stuff, I sometimes feel the old stuff and just focusing on it.
Yeah, yep. If you're an athlete and you ever learned how to do something an old way, and then all of a sudden they came out with a new way to teach you, and you're like, God, you're struggling learning that new way because you keep remembering the old way. That could be one. Or a play. Maybe I'm thinking in football, you're okay, I'm remembering the old play, but my coach just gave me this new play and the old play is still stuck in my head. That happens in school too. Retroactive interference is when you remember the new information, but you forget the old. So both these pieces of information are quite similar. So remembering the new, maybe you can remember this year's schedule, but you have a difficult time remembering your last year's schedule because it's conflicting. Okay? Maybe you can remember your new boyfriend's name, but you forget your old boyfriend's name. That wouldn't be so bad. The other way would be bad, wouldn't it? Your old boyfriend's name getting in the way of your new boyfriend's name. Paul. Oh God. That happened to me. I wasn't the person. I was the recipient.
Oh, okay. So that makes it.
My father-in-law to be called me my husband, his girlfriend that he dated for a very long time. That's how he introduced me. He said, "Everybody, this is Mary." And I'm like, Mary was the old girlfriend. I never forgot that. So you remember the old, you get in the way of the new. You remember the new, you get in the way of the old. This one, another example, you might say, like if you guys ever changed your passwords, if you ever changed a password and you're putting in you keep putting in your old password, but it's changed and you're like, crap, I can't remember my new password. So that would be a good example for that one too. I'm just trying to give you guys some different examples to apply to your life. You might, and I'm very curious, nobody said, Miss Horner, why do you have the word porn up here? That's kind of scary to me. But I will tell you, so all the conferences I've been to, most teachers teach these two concepts with the term porn. In fact, it's so readily taught that way that when I grade the essays, a lot of kids will actually write the word porn out. It's kind of funny. Why? Because proactive, you remember the old. Retroactive, you remember the new. So it not only will make you giggle, hopefully, but it'll help you remember. Proactive, you remember the old. Retroactive, you remember the new. A stupid mnemonic. Did anybody say that you forgot whatever you forgot because it was blocked? No? Okay. Then number 3 is encoding failure. You just were absent-minded. You literally just, it never left. It didn't get encoded. It left short term and it went out your ears. So this one's kind of popular. Who had that one? Did anybody say that was the reason? Anybody share what it is that you forgot, if you don't mind?
I just said like where I put my phone.
Yes, that's a really good example. And in fact, I've done that so many times. Like I can't remember where I put my phone because I never encoded putting it down somewhere. I don't know if you know the famous musician Yo-Yo Ma. He actually walked out of his taxi and left his $2.5 million cello in the taxi. Totally didn't encode that he had it in there. Kind of a bigger mistake than the phone, I'm assuming, but can you imagine? Number 4 is misattribution, which is also known as source amnesia. So what happens with this? Can any of you relate to this? You have a hard time remembering a place, a name, or a date or a time. You attribute it to the wrong one. So sometimes your parents may do this to you and say, Marcus, don't you remember you were supposed to do dot, dot, dot? And you're like, Mom, you didn't tell me that. You told maybe your sister or your brother that or whatever. Like it's when you can remember parts of it, but you can't remember like the person or you can't remember the place or the time. You guys, I do this all the time. I am totally admitting every day in class, I am getting worse. With 12, literally it's almost like we have 12 classes. I can't remember if I told you guys this, or if I told 7th hour this, if I told 4th hour this. Do you know how much I'm repeating in my head? I feel like I am this record player that's just like broken. So I'm constantly misattributing the source in my own brain. So bear with me. This is definitely something that's happening quite a bit. This can happen and get you in trouble. Has anybody accused you of doing something and they accused you falsely, not on purpose, but they really thought it was you? And they misattributed because you looked like somebody. Or maybe I saw David at the grocery store. Like, this is an example. Like maybe at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I saw David at the grocery store on a Saturday. Then at 9 o'clock at night, I see a car accident and I see somebody tall. I don't know who this guy is, but I can see a tall guy. in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, that must be David. I am screwing up where I saw him. I actually saw him at the grocery store, and I'm like attributing I saw him at the car accident. Gets you into trouble real quick, doesn't it? It's true stories. Stuff like that happens, you know, and all of a sudden people are calling the police saying, and then you're like, I was never there. All right, number 5. Oh God, okay, I gotta really go fast. This was your homework assignment. You were supposed to read about the second most important person in memory unit. Her name is Elizabeth Loftus. She's a super cool lady. She does this stuff for a living. She will testify, she will hold court, she will be with people to say, you know what, I can implant a memory that never existed. So if you did your 40 studies, she could implant and say, you know what, you hate this type of food. So she gets people to not be obese and not eat junk food. She implants memories that you were lost in a mall that you were never lost in. She implants memories that you think you saw Donald Duck, but you didn't. Or Bugs Bunny, I'm sorry. You know, like, and then she does some really good things, like where she's trying to free people that were falsely accused. And they're put into prison because somebody testified and said, that man raped me. And this is prior to DNA. And eyewitness testimony is one of the worst things people can actually use to hold against somebody because it's so false. If you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to learn to do this very well because you're going to try to suggest to that witness. Motivated forgiving is when you have a bias and you try not to remember certain things, and then these will be on your test, and they're pretty simple to understand. 3 types of amnesia. Infantile, you don't tend to remember before the age of 3. Anything before the age of 3, it's definitely an implanted memory or like a picture or something, but it's not your own memory. Anterograde amnesia is you tend to forget the new memories. You can't form new memories. Retrograde amnesia is you can't form old memories. So like if you get a concussion, sometimes people will be like, one of the first things they'll ask you is, hey, what do you remember? What can you recall? And a lot of times people can't remember things that happened prior to the concussion. It's like it's black. It's gone for them. All right, you guys have a great lunch. This will be up when you come back. Sorry I kept you a couple minutes long. Take your time eating. Have a great day at home. Enjoy that sunny weather. We'll see you all tomorrow.